This is the Filmy McFilm Film Show.
So when did you first watch Blade Runner?
So Blade Runner I first watched... Do you know what, Declan? I think it was actually when we was in BTEC Media, you know?
Yeah, same.
Obviously our teacher, Mr. Martin, said, he was big into sci-fi anyway. I think he was in Star Wars briefly for about 10 seconds. Said, let's watch this as a class. And I think we had to write an essay on it or something like that. But I was, to be honest, I'm not an amazing fan of sci-fi in general, but I was just blown away from it when I first saw it, to be honest.
See, that was the first time I watched it as well. And I remember Mr. Martin also was kind of part of the chief reason, among like just a general film sort of fan world consensus, his hyping it up and that hyping it up together kind of made me just not really enjoy it. Also, I didn't really know, when you don't know what sort of film you're walking into?
Yeah.
So I kind of was, my own expectations was kind of like, thought it was a different sort of movie. And I remember just not liking it the first time. I remember actually finding it really kind of boring, and I thought it was a bit overrated. And a lot of things I didn't like about it. I loved the way it looked.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a movie I had no interest in seeing again for a long, long time.
You must have been...
I loved sci-fi.
Yeah, you must have been impressed by... You said the way it looks. Are you talking about the special effects? Are you talking about...
Well, it was kind of similar. Kind of like, it's the same experience I had with No Country for Old Men, although I think Blade Runner is still a better film than No Country for Old Men. Now that I like both of them, because I do like both of them now. But when I first watched No Country for Old Men, I thought it was just sort of like an empty vessel where all the parts were beautifully made. Like the acting was perfect, the casting was perfect, the sound design was perfect, the look was perfect, the cinematography was perfect, the clothes and the costume design was perfect. Everything was perfect. Yeah. And it was all brought together for this sort of nothing-key thing that didn't really have a soul, didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I rewatched No Country for Old Men last year, and kind of knowing that it was what it was, and not having the expectation that I was going to like it so much when I watched it again, I actually really could just like sit back and appreciate it, and I really enjoyed it. And I had the same feeling with Blade Runner when I rewatched it maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And this is only the third time I watched it when I rewatched it for this review. Oh. And this was the first time where I was actually like, this is a phenomenal movie. Yeah. Like, I loved it. And I know you love it, and you loved it from the get-go.
Yeah, I've always been sort of... It's one of those things... that when it first came out, it basically bombed at the box office. Like, no one was into it.
What was out at the same time? There was a big movie out at the same time. I can't remember what.
Neither can I, to be honest with you.
But it was one of those ones kind of like Friedkin's The Sorcerer, where it came out a week after Star Wars came out. And it was never going to make money.
So it bombed in the box office. It's important to point out that I think... I can't remember 4 or 5 different cuts of it. So obviously, everybody knows that there's the cuts with the voiceover.
Yeah, that was which weirdly I think that was that might have been the first cut I saw, which might contribute to why I didn't like it so much. To be fair,
I think that was like the theatrical release, and apparently people who went to see it, the studio's getting an audience in to gauge the reaction. Big walkouts. People just...
Of the original, of the director cut, or the...
Not of the original with the voiceover and stuff like that.
Right, so they're messed up cut.
And the only reason they put the voiceover in is because when they viewed it first, they thought without this voiceover, the audience wouldn't really know what is going on or what they're trying to get to. And apparently, I've seen the voiceover version... The way it's delivered by Harrison Ford is so bad that there was a rumour that he deliberately done it badly on purpose.
Yeah, you can believe... It really did feel like he was just phoning it in and he was just bored and didn't want to be there.
Yeah,
and you can picture the whole thing being knocked out in about 3 hours. Like.
No one's ever confirmed it. Harrison Ford's obviously a professional, so when he's asked, he has denied it and said, nope, I didn't do it badly. It's just the way it came out. But there's been a massive rumour that he delivered it badly on purpose because he thought it made the film worse overall. Obviously, we'll get to it later, but there's the whole thing about the endings and stuff like that. I think we should just go through the film as it happens, kind of thing. See what we think.
Alright, so it starts off with the little title card, which kind of like gives you the setup of what the hell Blade Runner is, what a replicant is, blah blah blah. Has a nice little line of, this wasn't called execution, it was called retirement, which I thought was a nice little point. And the movie opens up to the beautiful, disgusting, disturbing looking, desolate sort of landscape.
Yeah.
The fire coming out of like the exhaust pipes of the buildings and just it's just it's a set design that's been copied like endlessly ever since.
That fire thing, the first time you saw it, that opening sequence of that skyline with the fire coming out, did you think that was like CGI or what?
Well, I knew it wasn't CGI just from the year it came out, but
it was actually a scale model.
Yeah,
so they made a model.
And I'm a huge fan of model design. I think the original Star Wars films, the original Alien films used models for the spaceships, and I think they just look better. And especially in the modern use of models where you can touch it up in post with digitally fix like shadows, fix certain elements just to make it look more like the scale that they're actually trying to go for in the film world rather than the scale of size that it is. But I think models look so... Like, you compare some... Take out, like, some of the aliens and the lasers and stuff from the old Star Wars movies. Like, the model ships in the space fights and in the dog fights look so much better than the later trilogies. I think, anyway. Like, the later trilogies always... I had that feeling where I'm sitting... When you're younger... when you're younger and your older brother's hogging the PlayStation, you're just watching him play a video game. That's what it felt like to me. Whereas model, and in Blade Runner 2049, I saw behind the scenes where pretty much all the major sets and all the major sets and set pieces were scale models, touched up with CGI.
Oh really? Like 2014?
Yeah, usually with a real set with the actor and then a scale model. Put onto the green screen in front of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then touched up with CGI just for the lighting and stuff. And that's part, like, you can tell the difference. Interstellar, another example of a movie that uses scale models where it just looks so much better. Like, it just looks infinite. Like, even the old school movies that use them, where you can tell, even when you can tell, like, straight away, you're like, that's a model.
Yeah.
It's still better because it's like your brain goes, that's a model, but your brain also says that's physical.
Yeah.
That's a physical thing that you could reach out and touch.
Well, I think for Ridley Scott to be attached to this picture film, he was probably one of the only directors I think that could have pulled it off because his attention to detail for like set designs and models. He would draw up a lot of the set designs himself because he's got like a really... I think he went to art college in like London or something like that. So he'd draw up a lot of the sets himself and he'd bring it to them and say, this is what I want it to look like. And obviously when they're messing about doing it, it caused a lot of friction on set because that's their job in a way. He's the overall director, but they're like, oh, this is what you've brought me in to do, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to do it yourself, why do you want me there? And it caused a lot of like arguments because you go and look at the sets and be like, I still don't like this. So
So
the
juries were like being torn down and
basically
in production for 3 more weeks to do it again, to build it up again. And it's interesting as well because you look at his previous... Did he make Blade Runner and Alien back to back? I think he might have.
Didn't he?
It was 1979, wasn't it?
Did he go and do correct me, I could be wrong here, Declan, but wasn't the duelist in between?
I think the duelist was his first breakout.
Oh,
movie.
the first one.
But either way, it was interesting because in Alien the creature design was done by one person, and I think the spaceship design and everything and all the sets were kind of done by someone else. But I think he actually had stood back from a lot of that. Yeah. Which obviously worked out for the movie because arguably the creature design is arguably as important as the script and Ridley Scott himself. You could put, it's kind of like the way you say like Ennio Morricone's nearly as important to Sergio Leone movies as Sergio Leone. Yeah. It's interesting that he took a back step from that, but he was so immersed in it, and he obviously had an idea.
Yeah, he had it in his head, and also with the set, because I read this really interesting book about the making of Blade Runner, which was like a fat novel, which took me about 4 weeks. But yeah, I'm a slow reader. A lot of the sort of background you see in sort of later scenes as well are just actually painted pictures. Right. Yeah, because like budget, like constraints.
That was normal back in the.
Yeah.
Well, even now, like I don't think really anymore, but having matte painting backgrounds would that kind of makes more sense to use it in that way though, because it's I suppose it's the stuff where you're not looking at it. Like naturally, the most budget's going to be spent on the effects that are most going to be in what you're drawn to. If that makes sense, like what you're going to actually be paying attention to. But yeah, so we have that beautiful landscape, and it immediately kind of like sets up the world. And you notice in the first 30 minutes, not really a whole lot happens. Like we have the great introduction of the replicant, and straight away it sets up what's going to be a recurring theme, which is the eye
test. Yeah,
we see straight away his eye coming up, being scanned. Yeah, and eyes show up in so many ways, which I won't get into now. Sort of hit it as we go along, and it's a great opening scene because it's so creepy with like the answers, and it's sort of like a weird sort of modern futuristic Rorschach test where he's been asked these weird questions about a turtle, and even like you when you're watching it, like I remember kind of being a bit like, why aren't I helping the turtle that's on its back and it can't get up, and they're creepy sort of questions, and you can tell at one point like I was wondering, do you think Leo was throwing questions back at him and kind of getting anxious on purpose? Was he trying to... I got the feeling, like I wasn't sure if he was trying to make it look like I'm nervous because I'm having a test. I'm not a replicant, I'm a human. Or was he actually nervous?
So the question to him was, if you went to a desert and you found a turtle or tortoise, was it, on its back, would you put it back over?
It was a tortoise because it was the whole point.
Like, do you know a turtle? Yeah. I think, because obviously we see in the title card at the start that, replicants are basically slave labour, aren't they, off-world. So they're kind of used to being like their whole life scared and chased around. So even though they only live for like, I think it's 4 years before they just die or whatever, I think they get quite used to the way...
So you think he was on edge?
Basically, generally. Humans treat them and they adapt, I think. Okay.
And then he flips out at the mother question, which was really nice touch as well, because obviously, him getting sore about that question in particular and then shooting the guy asking the questions is really clever, because it throws up so many things of like, you're instantly in the mind of, okay, these things... Clearly, they have feelings, and they probably feel naturally weird about what they are, and there's these sort of like holograms of humans, but they don't have parents, they don't have a mother, like I was asked about. Yeah, they don't have families, they don't have real lives, like they don't have lives before that. No, they didn't have childhoods, and it's just a clever way of throwing up like. It kind of opens your world to all the layers and all the angles of anguish they must have about what they are.
Like, it kind of makes you want to feel sorry for him in a way, because like they're basically just built in mass to serve a purpose, and then just only last 4 years, and it's just like, can't you make them like last longer, and like, you know, maybe do the purpose that they're served to do, and then like live a nice life after that kind of thing.
I suppose it's a natural progression of, at what point do you start saying that? Like, I agree with you,
true.
Obviously in sentiment, especially from watching the movie, but at what point, like, if you have a toaster, you wouldn't be like, oh, couldn't you design the toaster to last 100 years and have a nice life, toast and toast?
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you get to this point where you have artificial intelligence that can even experience feelings like a human.
Yeah.
Be so close to a human, you nearly can't tell the difference, which is the whole theme that the movie plays with. And, but yeah, it is. And that's the funny thing. I remember the first time watching the proper cut, and I remember thinking, because essentially, like, what a film is like, it's a series of feelings you're supposed to be having. And the director goes in with the intention of creating certain feelings at certain times in you, and whether he's a good director or not is basically how well he executes that. And I thought, when I was first watching it, Ridley Scott had kind of like messed up in the sense that I was like, I'm like, clearly Deckard's supposed to be the hero here, but I'm finding myself rooting for the replicants too much.
Yeah.
Even though they're pissing me off at times, and like, it's like when they when we're first introduced to the replicants and they go and we're first introduced to Roy Batty, kind of the leader of the replicants, and they kill the Japanese eye guy.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I like the Japanese eye guy. You know, he's in there making his eyes in his little ice cave thing.
Yeah.
And he says it himself. He's like, just eyes, you know.
I know.
He's just making eyes, and they kill him. But he keeps kind of like pulling you back and forth. But I remember thinking that was Ridley Scott messing up.
Yeah.
But as you get to the ending, you kind of like see that we'll
comes
get to
full
later.
circle kind of thing.
Yeah, you realise like that was the point, and it was me that was wrong the whole way through.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the actual title card says. It's just explaining about what replicants are and what Blade Runners are, isn't it? But then we find out later on that these band of replicants have been very naughty.
What, killing people?
Yeah, basically massacring everyone.
Well,
and then everything like that. Well, they're frustrated, aren't they? And they're,
yeah,
you know,
because they do kind of enter as and they kind of nearly act like villains at times.
Yeah,
and especially in the first couple of sequences we see, like they kill the little eye
guy
maker.
Yeah, the guy
pretty ruthlessly.
Yeah.
But then you, as it goes on, you kind of you see it from their point of view a bit more, where it's like, well, why should they like humans? Why should they give a fuck about human life?
But what I want to know, Declan, thinking about it, the whole point of this film is that they come from the off-world where they're slaves, isn't it?
Yeah.
To try and extend their lifespan, which is only 4 years. But how did they find out that their lifespan is only 4 years?
They don't know their lifespan's 4 years yet.
Ah, I see.
That comes up when...
Good point.
That comes up when... Well, we'll get to that, actually. That comes up basically later when Leo asks Deckard how long do they have to live.
Yeah.
And he says 4 years, and then he has the great line, more than you.
Yeah.
Tries to kill him.
Right.
Anyway, so going back, so what sets up basically, because it's a pretty simple story, and I never realised as well, it's quite a tight story, like it basically only spans over about 48 hours. But Deckard gets his mission from the weird-looking douchey Blade Runner. Yeah,
so we meet him...
And he gets his mission, and his mission is to take out these 5 replicants, which he initially doesn't want to take.
Yeah.
He's chatting with that fat police chief, or whatever he is. Who's brilliant. I love that guy. He's so well cast.
Yeah.
And he gets his mission, and he goes off and does it. And then the other sort of storyline weaving through it, which eventually collides with him, is Roy Batty leading his team of 5 replicants in their mission as they come back to Earth, and they're trying to find their creator so they can try and find out how long they have to live and extend their life. So that sets off the story. And we got Deckard. So he has a meeting with the Tyrell Corporation. And
So we're introduced to Deckard at he's buying noodles.
Yeah, let's not go back to that. He goes to the Tyrell Corporation and
meets Rachel.
Yeah. Did you immediately kind of think she was a robot the first time you saw her?
That's a difficult question, actually. I didn't, because there was one bit of really good kind of humour in the question she was being asked that I thought, would they be able to be this kind of witty? I think he asked in one of the questions,
Something about being a lesbian.
Yeah, so he goes, sorry, what would you do if you bought a nudie mag and then your husband wanted to hang the poster of the naked lady on the wall or something like this? And she goes, are you asking me if I'm a replicant or a lesbian? And I was thinking, that's a straightforward answer. It's very witty at the same time.
The questioning made me not think she was, but I just always thought it's the way she first walks over and says hello.
Yeah.
She really just sounds robot-y and walks robot-y. And I remember just thinking immediately, it's not a big twist of a movie because it's revealed 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
But I do just remember immediately thinking, that's a robot.
Yeah. I to be honest, I wasn't sure, to be honest, Declan, on that one. Obviously, mostly all the other ones I was kind of sure on. But her, it's revealed later on anyway. When I was first introduced to her, I wasn't 100% sure. The questions are strange and they try and catch them out, but I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I didn't really,
yeah.
Well, what is she supposed to say? Well, if my husband hangs a picture of a nude lady on the wall, obviously I'd be pissed off. Do you know what I mean? I don't really get what he was trying to get to with that question.
Do you know what's a great thing about that, though? Because when you find out later, because she goes and visits Deckard.
Yeah.
A bit later.
She goes to the
apartment. And she's basically, obviously, she's sort of, I don't know if she overheard or whatever. Maybe she overheard Tyrell explaining that she was a replicant and she's upset and he wants to see her, so she comes to see him, I guess because she doesn't know. But it's an interesting thought where he says a bunch of memories to her that he knows that have been planted in her.
Yeah.
Taken from Tyrell's niece, supposedly.
Yes.
And it's a funny thought where if she let's say I don't know, she could be anywhere between 3 years to a month old. Because they seem to have a 4-year lifespan. Yeah. So she just woke up one day and she was in this fake life with these fake memories. Yeah. And it's a weird thought yourself of, you just wake up and it's just you have that feeling of, I'm just here, you kind of don't...
Yeah.
You've had this life, but you don't really remember, how much can you really recall in detail about everything that's happened to you? It's just a funny thought that she 100% woke up one morning thinking this was her 10,000th day, when it was really maybe a first or a second or a third or a fourth.
I mean, the question is, can you really... Well, for the interest of this podcast, we're 30 odd now. Is there one childhood memory that just really flashes into your head that you'd be if this was implanted, I believe this would be...
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, but as soon as you asked that, I immediately thought of getting chased by a giant turkey in Greece, in Cyprus, when I was a little kid.
I don't remember.
And I'd stopped... We'd stopped by the side of the road. I was maybe 5, and I needed to do a shit.
Okay.
And I think they just took me to the side of the road to take a shit because it was a long drive. And for some reason, my dad put me up on a wall. So I was a 5-year-old kid on top of this wall by the side of the road taking a shit off a wall. So he hadn't put me taking me behind a bush. He'd put me more exposed. And it was cars driving past to see me taking a shit.
Well, if that was my memory...
that led on then directly onto the turkey. I didn't just start saying that for no reason.
That was my memory. That's quite a strange memory, so I'd be pretty sure I wasn't a replicant, to be honest. I don't know, Dick. I can't think that far back. I'm trying to think here. It's going to sound very, very, like, what do you call it? Typical. But going to my first football match with my dad.
All right.
When I was like 3 or 4. And I remember, fell asleep. And Chelsea scored, and the whole crowd went mad, and immediately I started bursting out crying. My dad was just laughing at me. It was all embarrassing. And there was actually another one, Declan. My dad's still got, you know those like photo things that you get from the photo booth, those photos? They just print out when you go.
Oh, yeah.
Basically what happened is, you know when you get in the circle chair and it spins around to get up higher? Because I was tiny, this was about 3. What happened is when it spun, my head kind of got caught in the curtains.
Oh shit!
And was wrapped around.
Destination style.
So when the pictures come out, it's just my head wrapped up, and the next picture of me like bursting out crying, and my dad still kept it to this day, and it was
meant to see that.
He's put it in a box in our room. It was like when I was 2 or 3, and he's just kept it because he just finds it hilarious.
That is so funny.
So if it was them two.
That would be a little replicant insertion.
Yeah. So he meets you meet Tyrell, the little nerdy geezer, basically, that just makes them all, and then Rachel.
And the film's kind of like established. It's established his mission, and it's established her as a character, and we go from there. And the actual detective work, like when you break it down this time, when I was watching it.
Yeah.
This time, because it's quite like a complex movie and the storytelling's quite complex. It felt the detective work to find them felt very complex the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
But when you actually watched it this time, once you really know a movie and you start to pick up on all the extra little details because you know the plot so well, you can just look at the background stuff. And I kind of realised like the actual detective work's super simple. It basically boils down to he goes and finds those pictures at Leo's house. Which Leo goes to try and get, but they're already gone. And Roy Batty has that line to him, like, "Did you find your precious pictures?"
Yeah.
So he gets those pictures while he has the unexpected visit from Android chick. What's her name again?
Oh, Snake.
No, the beautiful woman.
Rachel.
So bad with names.
Yeah,
so he has a visit from Rachel, and while she's there, she's kind of like sleeping, and they're having their sort of building their first bit of chemistry. He does the little, really long sequence, but I do actually enjoy it. It is a long sequence of him zooming into the
zooming in, yeah. Track right, 55.
Yeah.
Straight.
And you notice that, I meant to say that before, but you can tell that Ridley Scott was in love with the sets and in love with the world building, because the first 30 minutes, if you describe it in terms of like plot points, it's like 2 sentences. There's a lot of shots of just long shots of like, once he's eating his noodles and that other guy picks him up and takes him to the office. Yeah. It's quite a long little sequence of them just flying.
Yeah.
And driving through the city, and there's a lot of that in the first 30-40 minutes, which you don't mind because it's amazing to look at.
Is that one of the reasons when, said you've seen it 3 times now, is that one of the reasons that you didn't, you just felt that there was kind of like lengthy things for no reason?
No. I don't dislike those points, but I just found it interesting where he took plenty of time to just enjoy and set up the world you're in. And
on a second question, what do you think of, number one, the casting of Harrison Ford and I think it's Sean Young as Rachel?
Let's go through the whole cast. Harrison Ford's Harrison Ford. He's always a gangster.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because his character in this is sometimes feels like the most important character.
Yeah.
In terms of like the themes it's exploring of how it pans out in the end. Sometimes feels like just a thing. I think Harrison Ford even described it as he felt kind of like a reason to point the camera somewhere.
Yeah.
Like he didn't really feel like he had necessarily a point, which is sometimes how a main character plays out. Like a lot of the time, the more interesting characters are the characters around him, and he's just sort of nearly like a plot device of the character. Yeah. And he's a funny character. Like sometimes he's this very like, he's a real sleuth, sort of like classic noir detective he's jaded and miserable.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And then sometimes he's quite goofy and weird. Like, remember when he meets the snake stripper? Snake
Dancer,
stripper, replicant,
yeah, whatever she is, yeah.
And he does that goofy pretend he's from like a newspaper, or he's from like the Department of Obscene Acts or whatever it's
the
called.
Americans Actors Guild or something.
Yeah. But it's funny, but I think it's great casting. Who's Rachel played by?
In Harrison Ford in this film, you've mentioned the word miserable. It just seems like he just hates his life to me. Like, I think he's an alcoholic as well, because he's always like down in whiskey all the time. But he does have a hard job at the same time, running about killing people.
I don't know how much, like, you could analyse it to death. I don't know how much it is just like, that's, you know, it's a noir sci-fi. And that's the archetype of a noir detective. True. Or is it like
the Mac and the
whiskey? He
whiskey.
seemed miserable. Sometimes he just felt like he was nearly like confused, which makes sense with the fact that his character, you know, in the finale. Spoiler alert. I mean, you don't need spoilers for a 42-year-old movie, but he turns out to be a replicant.
Yeah,
or
he does.
Hinted strongly that he's a replicant.
He does. Ridley Scott has come out and said he is, but Harrison Ford does not agree with him.
Well,
so they're going back and forth.
Harrison Ford.
But I just had another thought, Declan. Would you not be moody if wherever you live is just constantly...
Yeah, it looks like...
constantly pissing down with rain.
That's what I liked about the movie as well. The whole cast, like, everything was so grotty and everyone was kind of just like...
depressed.
Like, come on, move quick. Like, everyone was quite out for themselves. It felt a bit like Once Upon a Time in America, but somehow set in the future at the same time. It was just grotty. But going back to the cast thing, who was Rachel played by again?
I think, because I looked at it and it was a weird name, Sean Young.
And what else did she do?
I don't think she had done any major things before getting cast for this. Ooh, that's a good question as well. I'm not too sure. I think the main reason she got cast is she's just very, very beautiful.
And well, she is.
You know what I mean?
She's absolutely gorgeous. And
at that
and especially,
time.
like, I remember being like, well, she's really good looking when she first appears, and she's got that weird sort of like...
very youthful looking...
Yeah, but like her haircut is kind of like a weird librarian or something.
Yeah.
And then later, when she visits Harrison Ford the second time, after she's saved him
her
from
hair's
Leo,
down, I think, yeah.
her hair's down and she's long and curly.
Yeah.
And they first get with each other and she looks absolutely banging, man. Like, she's gorgeous.
The reason I said
And
about...
I like that casting as well. I thought she was perfect for that.
Yeah, the reason I said about the chemistry is from what I've looked into, for some reason... Harrison Ford and her like hate each other.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
I don't know why.
Harrison Ford's kind of notorious for being like not. I don't know if I wouldn't say hard to work with, and I wouldn't say like an arsehole. Like, he's not a Chevy Chase sort of type notorious character, but he's like he's had cases where he doesn't get on with people.
Yeah, I think what it was.
You hear about it.
I think what it was is Sean Young was saying she was quite green. New to the whole thing. She kept making mistakes and then he obviously didn't like it because everyone was just starting to get pissed off because it is pissing down with rain. They're getting soaking wet and he's starting to get annoyed and he just wants to finish whatever take it is and get it done for the day because Ridley Scott's got them working like bloody animals like all hours of the day and night. So but I thought that didn't really come across in the actual film. I thought there was quite good chemistry there, to be honest.
But to be fair, like, I liked how they first get with each other, but it is kind of unusual. Like, do you remember it where he kind of like grabs her and says, say you want me to kiss
Oh, yeah, it was kind of like
and she's
put
like,
upon her. Yeah.
But it is, but she does like it. And it's kind of like fucking sexy how it plays out. Like, I'm not complaining about it, but it was odd. Like, it was a bit odd. Like, and I'm not saying it in today's context, Me Too sort of way. I'm just saying, even back then, it was just kind of like an interesting choice of how to play it out.
Yeah, and to be honest, I question Deckard in this because I don't know if it's a plot hole in the film. Would he really want to get with a replicant when his whole life is made to be killing them? That surely there's a lot of human population still he could be targeting.
Well, to be fair though, the very start of the movie starts with him refusing it because He doesn't say why, and he's forced into it because he's like seemingly going to be arrested if he doesn't. But he clearly doesn't want to kill him anymore.
Do you think he's
and
retired?
He never looks like he enjoys it. He looks like he feels very bad about it because when he like we were saying before. Hold on, before we do that, let's just run through the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
So Roy Batty,
brilliant. Oh, genius, man.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Perfect casting. Daryl Hannah, one of my favourite actresses ever.
Yeah.
All like brilliant. She was. To be honest, she's always, when you say to me Blade Runner, I kind of think of her first. Like she's always the most memorable part of it.
She was cast because she was a gymnast, obviously, which we see later on. And kind of reminds me of
Leo. I always love like something about. I actually felt like he played being a replicant the best. There was something about like every line he had like his expression was kind of like had this like bemused sort of glazed over,
straight to the point.
Like this weird cadence to how he'd say everything, and he sold it. Being a robot for me, the most by far. And then we'll kind of like we can pick up the other smaller parts as we go along.
Yeah. On the casting, a bit of a fact. No, actually, I want you to try and guess.
All right.
So someone else was originally picked to play Deckard over Harrison Ford. Have 3 guesses who you think it might be.
Okay, give me an extremely vague clue because it could be anyone.
You might guess it though.
Super vague, like ridiculously vague.
All right, here's to you, Mrs. Robinson.
What? Thingy. Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah,
that would have been shit.
It was originally picked to cast it. There was
a couple 2 foot tall.
There's a couple. Yeah, that was one of the things. How's he supposed to be fighting these massive geezers? But they thought he's such a good actor, he could probably put it off.
That's one of those interesting things that it would have just been a completely different movie.
Yeah. That blew my mind when I found that.
I would never have guessed that. That's as weird as, like, you know, when you hear that the original casting for The Matrix was going to be... The first choices was Neo would have been Will Smith and Morpheus would have been Sean Connery.
No, that's weirder than Dustin Hoffman.
That would have been such a different movie.
Who was Sean Connery?
Morpheus.
Oh, imagine that.
And it's funny, like that's interesting.
Run Neo.
Where, like clearly the race of the part wasn't a big deal for them, but also just the style of actor. Like Will Smith couldn't be any different than Keanu Reeves.
I don't know. I reckon that could have still worked. You know.
Yeah, but my point is, it would have worked. It could have worked, and probably would have worked, but it would have been a different... Like, you would have to have a different tone to it.
Sean Connery is Morpheus. Fucking hell.
Because he said he refused it because he was just like... Read it 5 times, he was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in this movie. He's like, I'm old, I'm Scottish.
How's he supposed to be doing flips and shit? Like jumping in the air.
He was just like, what is it? So
we're on a tangent. Where do we get to here?
Alright, so he does his little futuristic CSI Miami. You zoom into the picture.
Oh yeah.
Figures out this snake scales, tracks some stuff down there, and then he finds himself interviewing the snake stripper.
Yeah, so he sees
the tits out to try and distract him.
Yeah,
and starts beating the shit out.
He sees the snake scales and then goes to like all the dodgy, whatever, fake replica animal places. Gets to this place. As you said, she gets her tits out. Then they start scrapping.
Yeah, she beats the shit out of them.
She beats the shit out of them.
I really like how she acted the moment where she thinks to run away and then she thinks, oh no, I should kill him. But it's just, I really like how she played that. But then she goes running along through the beautiful set and there's that great sort of slow motion shootout. Shootout, he's just
move out of the way. Yeah.
And you see it on his face, again, like we were saying a minute ago, how he clearly doesn't want to be doing this anymore.
No.
And he, like, you can see his face when they roll her over in the street, it is what he's looking at least resembles just a woman that was running away that he shot in the back.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty gross moment. And then he's attacked by Leo.
Yeah, so Leon's kind of just walking about. I don't know I don't know if they kept in like. They must have kept in contact with each other. Like, why wasn't they together in the bar? Kind of.
I mean, he was probably meeting her outside.
Yeah, and then he finds her. He sees it, doesn't he? So he
Seemingly,
must be.
yeah.
He
he's
must
round
be
the corner.
fucking. He's fucking fuming now, isn't he?
Yeah, and this is the point where I really like. Even the first time I was watching it, I really was just like, I'm rooting for the replicants here. This is bullshit. Like, really, I remember actually, I would have been fine. I knew it wasn't going to happen just because of the fact that he was the main character and the way movies work. But I would have been fine with him getting killed, Deckard getting killed in that moment, and the movie carrying on, following just the replicants.
That would have been a good idea, actually. Yeah.
I mean, it would have been a Psycho-esque, shocking, kill the main character halfway through sort of moment, but because it was pretty much halfway through the movie.
But how comes, another question, Declan, which really isn't a plot hole, it's something that's popped into my head now. Obviously, he's going around trying to find these people. He's part of the police force, yeah? Why is he going into all these situations by himself? I swear the police would go with backup. There'd be like loads of them.
So 3 reasons. It's a noir movie.
Right. Good point.
Noir movie, so it's just
Him
always
by
lone
himself.
detective. Secondly, it's just better that way.
Yeah.
And I don't have a third reason. But,
Good
yeah,
point,
so
though.
it's just that.
He should have all backup by the door bursting in, but they wouldn't arrest him, they'd just try and kill him, wouldn't they?
But it also, like, I think you sort of forget that you're looking at a tiny, kind of insignificant blip of this world.
True.
Like, I don't think this event would even make the news the next day.
No, there's
Like,
probably...
this is just a minor thing that's happening.
There's probably...
Maybe the fact that the head of the Tyrell Corp, in a few scenes' time, gets killed.
Yeah.
Make the news. But yeah, so we have Deckard's about to get killed by Leo, and then Rachel shows up, kills him, saves him.
Oh, yeah.
They go back,
Shoots him.
get with each other. Meanwhile, we have Roy Batty and Daryl Hannah, who've hatched a little plan where they've got information from the Japanese eye maker.
Yes.
That there is a person who is very high up in the Tyrell Corporation, who has close links to the head of the Tyrell Corporation, who, if they get close with, they can hopefully make contact.
Yeah.
So, Daryl Hannah, I don't know if they found that information about him beforehand, but they seem to have an idea of the type of character the Toymaker is beforehand.
Yeah.
Because they send in Daryl Hannah first to pretend to be a homeless runaway. And
get his trust.
This is another thing where, just like in the previous scene, I said I was totally on the replicant side. Here was another sort of story plot where I ended up hating the replicants again because I love this little toy.
He's such a strange little man.
He's such a nice little fellow. Like, he's played so well.
Yeah, he is. He is.
He's so
Poor guy,
perfectly
man.
cast. He's so, like, you can tell he fancies her. But
he fancies her,
he doesn't have... I feel like it's as much like a friendship appeals to him as much as fancying her.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a sweet little pathetic figure. And you can tell, like, there's no... I don't think there's any, like, if I get her upstairs, then I can have sex. Like, I think it's...
Yeah.
It's probably on his mind, naturally, like, a natural impulse, but I feel like he genuinely...
just wants company.
Is like... And also generally just wants to help her.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I would say that he probably wants the company because they're going through this massive housing estate kind of thing. It's all derelict, run down,
He's the only
water
person living there.
all over the floor. And then you sort of find out that this poor little Sebastian, I think his name is, his poor little friends are these toy midgets that he's made himself. They just walk out.
Which I loved as well. They're the way they just come up to say hello and salute him at the door.
Back again.
It's such a bizarre, cool little set and such a funny little character. And I love that when Roy Batty shows up, you can tell there's like, he's starting to sort of sense. You can tell he knows he's maybe in a bit of danger.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a mix. It's kind of like, I pitched it kind of like, remember like the kid in school who's kind of friends with the bully, but kind of occasionally a victim of the bully?
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of that, where it wasn't as simple as like he immediately was like, oh, I'm in danger now. He was still kind of going along with it.
Yeah,
and he still kind of believed it, but even up until the point where brings him into the Tyrell Corporation, it seems like he knows what he's doing wrong. He knows like this is going to end up bad.
Yeah.
But he kind of thinks he's still friends with him and he's doing the right thing. Like he's maybe on the spectrum a bit. Like he's.
Oh yeah, there's something.
He's clearly not clued into like social cues very well, but he's a genius at the same time.
Yeah, like I just feel, as you said, so bad because he's like, oh, anyone. There's a scene in it where he kind of like says breakfast and like puts eggs in a thing.
He's
and
just a sweetheart. Like
they kind of like put their hands into the boiling water and get the eggs out and throw it to him. He's obviously an idiot because he then catches it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at that point, I think he finally clocked like they're gonna do something to me at some point. But
I don't know when he figures it out. You can tell like the moment Roy Batty shows up. He's a bit. He can sense it a little bit because the way he even goes off to make breakfast, he's clearly part of that is a bit of fear. But I liked as well because it made him an even more sympathetic character when he's asked him straight out like, oh, what model are you? Because he can just tell by the fact that normal person wouldn't be able to, but he can tell that they're not human. And it's again a point of like he has zero. He couldn't care less. Like he's probably one of the only people in the world that literally will treat them like they're human.
Yeah,
and doesn't care, and they still end up screwing him over. But anyway, so they trick him, manipulate him into bringing them to the Tyrell Corporation.
Yeah.
And I love... It's just one of those things in screenwriting where you have a plot point to get to, they need to manipulate him and somehow get into the Tyrell Corporation. Yeah. And doing it through that sort of like over-the-phone chess game.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool, classy little touch. Like, I love that. I did always think, like, as much as I found a chess game ploy of how they actually get in to Tyrell's room clever, it was also a little bit like, still a bit too easy.
Well,
like, surely there was security guards, surely there was whatever. But...
Paul Sebastian is obviously a loner, as we've discovered with his little toy.
He's a bit of a doink. Kind
of robot toys, and he does say at one point that he's only ever beaten Tyrell once, and they must have played like 300 times. Poor guy, he should just give up. Yeah,
which is a good way also of establishing like what a genius he must be.
Yeah, exactly.
So he brings him in, and he kind of has that pathetic line of, "I brought some friends."
Oh yeah,
and you can tell by the way he says it, he's like, "Oh, I'm in trouble."
Yeah.
Like, I'm in trouble with Tyrell. I'm in trouble with these guys. Like, he's just kind of like a doofus. And I also liked how, like, you could tell from the little exchanges that the head of Tyrell, whatever his name was, he liked him. Like, he clearly had affection for the little toy maker. So, so they come in and you have the big meeting with Roy Batty and his creator.
I think Tyrell, at this point, being a genius or whatever, has worked out that he's going to die after this, but he just accepts it, I think, which is quite cool, I thought.
I think he's still... do you reckon? I don't know if he accepted it. I don't know if he was calculating ways out of it. Because he plays it very cool. He plays it friendly. Like, he opens with, "Surprised you didn't come sooner."
Yeah.
And it's all very friendly. And he's kind of matter-of-fact with him. And I liked how the sequence where they're Roy Batty's throwing out possibilities and they're speaking in like this scientific jargon, and you can tell Roy Batty, he's a superior specimen by design, and he's clearly very smart, and he's clearly done loads of research into it, and he's making seemingly like smart suggestions that Tyrell, the head of Tyrell's, already tried. And just won't work, and he kind of just lays it out for a matter of factly that like you just can't, it just doesn't work that way. Like, you're superior, but you can't last as long.
But if he wanted to save himself, he could have been like, instead of being like, "No, that won't work because it turns into a virus," but like, "Yes, that will work," and then do it to him and just killed him. Do you know?
Yeah, like
he could have saved himself easily.
maybe you're right then. Maybe he did accept. Maybe he did just accept that he was done. Like there was no way out. And he was dishonest.
I think if he turned around and was like, the one or two suggestions that they made, and he was like, that could work. I reckon even Batty would have done it out of desperation. Personally,
he might have also just
clocked it and
he might have clocked it and just killed them anyway. Like they seemed like they were brilliant at manipulation and picking up on social cues and things.
Yeah.
At least Roy Batty and Daryl Hannah did. Daryl Hannah's character.
Not Leon though, because Leon seemed to be
seemed very
dumb,
bemused, confused. He just was always kind of like, huh? His jaw was always open.
Yeah.
So it was a bit like what, but So and then Roy Batty gives him that brilliant kiss of death.
Yeah,
and then kills him with the thumbs in the eyes.
Oh, that's fucking
and it's funny because like it's pretty obvious that eyes play a major recurring theme in the movie.
Yeah.
And I assume it relates to something, there's that old saying of like the eyes are the window to the soul.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's obviously like it plays throughout, like the replicant's eyes look different under light. The owl's replicant's eyes look different under light. Yeah. The eyes being made and like the eye maker, and it's a recurring thing. And I wonder if it's like supposed to be him going in. It's nearly like he's trying to like take
the soul,
the person's soul, or destroying them through that way, like soul first, as making a point. Like I don't think it's literally Roy Batty's character, having any thinking of that, but it's just it seems like a very deliberate thing that he always seems to kill people by going eye first. Yeah,
you're probably right, to be honest. And throughout this whole scene, as you said about the owl, it just kept cutting back to the owl's like eye flickering like back and forwards, and you could tell that owl was a replicant because it didn't look normal at all. So it was kind of like a roundabout way thing to keep referring back to your point. Maybe you'd have to ask Ridley Scott if this was purposeful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it does seem too much of a coincidence to not be purposeful in this film.
And it's a brutal way to die.
Oh, that was fucking horrible,
when he's just like, I thought he was at first time I saw it, I thought he was just going for a head crush.
Yeah, even the sound of that.
Which sounds like it would be worse.
Yeah.
But there's something about like the slow squeezing in and his eyes start to pop and he's screaming, and the little toy maker's like getting all scared in the background. He starts to run off. And
why didn't... we've established Sebastian's clearly a retard. Like... Yeah. he's in the lift, and like obviously we've debated this point previously. I think he must know that at the end, when his use is up, he's going to be done. Do you know? But he should have just got back down the lift and been like, "See ya."
You're saying why as if it's an unrealistic like character decision, but it's actually brilliant writing and acting, because like that is often people's reactions to things. People don't, through most of life, how often do you know what you should do but you don't do it in a situation?
All the
Probably time. 99 times out of 100. Like most of life's problems could be solved by people just doing the obvious thing they know they should do. But people get scared, people get nervous, people get down on themselves, people don't know how, people freeze up, people clam up. Like the unrealistic characters in this movie is Deckard and Roy Batty and Daryl Hannah, and the ones that always seem to know what to do. Like that's not how life actually plays out, except for a very select few people in certain situations.
And I take it Sebastian, to be honest, Declan hasn't had a lot of life experience. I take it as he's got all his little food that he gathers up, which sustains him. But the majority...
What was that? He's not a squirrel.
Which the majority of the life he spends in that little apartment with his two toy friends.
He's a genius. He's an idiot savant.
Yeah.
He's
like a future
incredibly... He's changing the world, but he's also incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And really, like, why the fuck didn't they have some... Tyrell Court has some security in that building? Why do they have him in that big old, dusty old... council estate with no one else in it? Like, what's going on there?
And then obviously Sebastian runs off camera, and then Roy Batty starts chasing him. We just assume that he catches him and kills him.
Well, we know he does, because the reason Deckard then knows to go to his house for the final big showdown is because that fat police detective character radios into him in his car, telling him to go over there, and that the other body found in the location was that of Sebastian, blah blah blah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
And also then another thing, like we were saying before, about how Ridley Scott has kind of like not necessary to the plot indulgences for the sake of like showing off this amazing world they've designed.
Yeah.
There's that moment where that amazing hover car police unit comes by and says, "Freeze, let me scan you. Who are you?" Blah blah blah. And he just flies off, and you're like, that was pointless, but it looked really cool.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
He comes along and he's like, "We're going to arrest you." And he's like, "I'm Deckard 310. And then he goes, "Have a better day," and just flies off.
Okay, and he flies off.
Right, nice, but
it looks class. It looked
and
great.
then for some reason, 3 little midgets steal stuff off the top of his car and he drives forwards. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that as well, though. That was the things I loved about it. Was the weird... Like, it's kind of like if you throw... Like, any of the scenes or shots where he's walking through the street, you could freeze that and do a fucking Where's Wally on all the random stuff that's going on. Like, there's so much weird little textures and details and bizarre little characters and odd little choices. And one of the things that, just going off on tangent for a second, that I really liked is, you notice this in a lot of sci-fi movies. You notice how a lot of 80s sci-fi movies, whenever something's depicting the future, Japanese culture and Japan in general is always quite a big influence on the future, or just features a lot. And the reason was because up until like the 90s, I think the 90s was when, did they call it, the 90s for Japan was the lost decade or something? Basically, Japan from the 60s onwards was the second biggest economy in the planet after America, and it was predicted basically to overtake, kind of the way China is now, but even more accelerated, was predicted to overtake America as the world superpower and just take over in the future. And that never ended up happening. But you can see the influence so much in 80s sci-fi movies depicting the future. Yeah. And especially in Blade Runner, like, look how much Japanese culture, like so many Japanese like most of the advertisements you see on the big screens are Japanese products, and
it's just cool, like with the neon lights and stuff like that. Like.
Anything like, I always love when any bit of Japanese culture is mixed with Western culture. I just think it's so interesting and cool. But anyway, so Deckard
is going into he's into the house,
and it's a very long sequence, and it's but it's never too long. Like, I love this whole final end sequence. I love the fact that like, it's not an action movie by any sense, and it's not a thriller either.
Yeah.
But it has these moments of action, and they're not big set pieces, like action set pieces, but they're always just very clever. Like, I love the fact that he sneaks in and Daryl Hannah is hidden amongst the other toys that have been made, pretending, because she's kind of like, her makeup and her hair and design and everything, she fits into that futuristic sort of landscape with the weird fashion and everything, but she doesn't look like a normal person. She looks like she could be a model.
Reminds me of the way that she spray paints her eyes black for some reason, and her whole look a bit of the Joker, you know?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ziggy Stardust.
That as well. David Bowie, I just got, when she was spray painting her eyes with a little smile, I was like, this is the Joker.
Yeah, I do see
and she just pops out. She is a bit of a agent of menace, like, with doing her cartwheels and fucking around, you know what I mean? I could imagine the Joker, if he could, fighting like that.
One thing robots didn't know how to do was punch her in the future.
I know.
They all punch so weirdly.
I know. No connection, man.
They all kind of like cork up and then like hit with their wrist.
Yeah. So she's hidden, and then
she
comes out, backflips, grabs Deckard by the neck. For some reason, somehow turns his head up, turns his whole body around.
I thought that as well.
His head.
I thought like, she breaks his neck.
Yeah.
But she kind of like shimmies him around.
It looks like the Exorcist. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, he's dead. End of film. Like, And then one of the most disturbing scenes in the whole film when he shoots her and she starts spazzing out. She's like...
Which, by the way, do you remember Daryl Hannah's brilliant character in... the one-eyed character in Kill Bill?
Yes.
In Volume 2. Do you remember when her eye gets snatched out?
Yeah, and then
she intentionally does the same sort of crazy on-the-floor movements. Like Quentin Tarantino asked her to replicate it. And when you look at it, it is identical, like the way she's thrashing about.
Going, you bitch, I'm blind.
And it, honestly, the first time I saw that, it was one of the most... It disturbed me so much, more than a lot of like gory or intense or strange moments in movies. Something about the way she was thrashing about.
She smashed her career after Blade Runner, man.
What do you mean?
She done well for herself, man.
Oh,
she's in Kill Bill.
She's not done as well as she should have. She's one of my favourite actresses ever. Like, I think she's so underrated, even though she has done so well. So she dies, and then old Roy Batty shows up, and quite understandably goes on a rampage after him.
An elderly Roy Batty now. He's coming to the end.
Yeah.
He might as well be on like one of those mobility scooters coming up to
chasing him up the stairs. Chasing him up those many flights of stairs.
And then it gets and the lift's out of order in the film just ends. So I see it like...
Declan just shoots an old man in the face and goes
shoots him. But yeah, he does a weird kiss where she's already dead, which is fair enough. Like, he obviously did love her, had some weird sort of relationship between them.
I don't think it was that. I think they just were in love and they were...
Yeah. And then the big set piece of the whole film starts really when they start fighting proper Deckard and Batty. And the whole fight, basically, Deckard gets battered, man.
Well, the whole fight is basically him... Roy Batty is frustrated, and obviously, like, he's probably raging. He's about to die. Everyone he loved has died. Not died, been killed by this guy. But he's not killing them. And I don't even really think he's toying with him.
I was going to say toying on him.
I suppose he is, but he's... I don't know, it just... With how it eventually plays out, it just seems like... He's nearly more frustrated. He's also frustrated, like, that he can't put up more of a fight. He doesn't want to kill him.
Yeah, but Deckard, obviously Deckard knows he's going to get battered because straight away when he's running about, he tries to shoot him in the back and he's like, hee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Not very nice to shoot at an unarmed opponent.
Yeah, all that. So Deckard knows. And then you got the whole, I don't know what it was, when he puts the nails through his hands and stuff like that. Is it Jesus Christ reference? Is it?
Maybe, yeah. I never really took too much notice of that. I don't really know. And then him smashing his head through the wall.
Yeah, it was just doing weird shit.
I think sometimes you can get too caught up in, like, is that a metaphor? And it was just interesting way for it to play out, maybe.
Yeah. It was to, like, feel some sort of feeling just before he's about to die.
Yeah, maybe that.
Putting it through his
hands. Or was
it
that song Hurt, the Johnny Cash
cover?
I cut myself today.
Yeah,
it's just and it's just so entertaining and just like he becomes like this unstoppable, terrifying machine.
And then it goes outside. They're kind of like fighting on the rooftops for a while. Obviously, Deckard. I think by this point, Deckard's accepted defeat. He's just getting absolutely bad.
It's also that thing where
he's just trying to run away.
When you're that exhausted, because he's literally like panting, and he's like he can't run away and break through doors fast enough while it's getting the shit kicked out of him. He's exhausted, and he's nearly so exhausted. There's a point where you're just like, you'd rather just die.
Yeah.
Then like you can't go on anymore. So it's like fuck it.
So there's sort of like flying about on the fucking soaking wet roof. He's trying to like run away from him. I don't know what's going on. They're jumping through gaps. Then obviously it comes to it. Batty kind of like he jumps, doesn't he? And then Deckard jumps and he kind of slips, doesn't he? And then
I can't remember if I'm honest.
Yeah, so Deckard jumps.
I just remember they end up on that sort of bizarre side pillar thing.
Yeah,
it kind of nearly looks like a gargoyle should be sitting on top of it.
I think, Deckard jumps across and kind of like slips, and he sort of grabs himself back up, and then
he helps him back up.
And then Batty's just like, I think done it on purpose. He just leaps over the gap easily. He's just like, where he's still going, and then obviously pulls him back up. Imagine if the ending was changed. He just fucking went, oh, see ya, just dropped him and then died. Like, it wouldn't have been as powerful.
No, it'd be nowhere near as powerful, because the whole amazing point is that you assume, he delivers that beautiful monologue.
Tears in the rain.
And he's talking about, like, the thought of all the beautiful things I've said. And that is what kind of summarises where it's like, what is the difference between...
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's say there's still obviously a massive gap between them and human, but what is the difference between being a life form, and what they are? Because he's experienced all these beautiful things, and just like us.
Yeah.
Eventually, or in 100 years, no one, like, who cares past your grandkids about you? No one.
True.
In 100 years, no one will know we ever existed, and it's all meaningless to you the moment you die, like, or everything you ever experienced. The moment you die, one day, everything we've ever experienced will just be gone.
Yeah.
And it will just be like it
Tears
never
in
happened.
the rain.
It'll just drift away.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment, and you can tell, like, he, in his last moments, he's like, he loves, even though his life is shit, no one seems to love him, his own creator doesn't give a shit about him, everyone's trying to kill him. They don't, they're born basically by birthright as not having the same, like, any sense of humanity, given recognised rights. He appreciates life enough to spare Deckard in that last second. Yeah,
like, he obviously was just on another level to the other replicants in terms of, like, understanding and everything like that. Him compared to Leon, I think they just wanted to, like, get through life and stuff like that. He had a higher understanding, didn't he, Roy Batty, out of all of them, really. But it kind of defeats the point. It's a point about life and morality. Do they deserve to be treated better? Do they deserve a longer life than just shipping them off to probably even more of a shithole than this LA, wherever it is, to do slave labour? No wonder someone went mad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an animal backed into a corner. Like, what do you want them to do?
Exactly.
How do you want them to react?
It's like a lion and a circus tamer. One day they're going to go mad and something's going to happen. But then we kind of get to the end of the film when Gaff comes along. Obviously, the weird geezer on a walking stick who looks like the worst cop ever. He's just like,
what is he supposed to be? Is he another Blade Runner?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, and he comes along. So
then one of the biggest lines in the film: "You've done a man's job, sir." So basically, referring to your replicant.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, you've done a man's job, sir.
Yeah, you've done a man's job, sir. So that's when you kind of think, if you didn't think already in the
You're
whole
smarter
film,
than me, because I didn't think that at all. I didn't even notice that.
If you didn't think in the whole film that what's he implying here is Deckard a replicant.
Well, the beautiful line that follows as well was...
it's a shame she won't live forever.
And it's interesting because you do start to think, like, who is this guy? He seems to know... I mean, you find out in a second he knows a whole lot more about Deckard, but he seems to know all these things about Deckard. He seemingly knows that he's going off with Rachel.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like Deckard clearly doesn't like him or trust him at the beginning, so I'm not sure where he's getting this info from, but he delivers that beautiful line, shame... Jesus Christ.
I think
she sells seashells. Shame she won't live, but then again, who does?
Yeah,
it's just another nice point of like it's another... There's the dialogue in these final sequences are so good at kind of
closing the film,
bringing up a mirror to, like, what is the difference
between
the two. It's like there were a difference is that they have these 4-year lifespans, but we have 8-year lifespans. Like, it's just another thing of what is the difference.
And then obviously We should point out that this little greasy bastard...
Who's talking about? The walking stick guy?
Yeah, Gaff has been doing stuff this whole film. Don't know if we covered that, leaving the little models.
No, we didn't, the origami.
The origami matchstick men, and then the unicorn. Obviously, if we're talking about...
we didn't talk about the unicorn.
Yeah,
the little unicorn dream.
The unicorn dream as well. We're talking about the director's cut and the final cut here, which is this ending. Goes back to find Rachel. She's asleep, and says, "Oh, do you love me?" Blah blah blah. Then he finds the unicorn origami, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which has obviously been left by this slimy so and so. I think the whole point of...
Was he slimy? Like he was slimy in nature, but wasn't that... Like, his character's nearly like... There's probably no point analysing it because it's literally just like a background character sort of to provide...
context and plot
points, but... Like, was that not a... Like, he seemed like actually nearly like a guardian angel by the end. He says that line, he clearly knows stuff about him, but he's not... He's not fucking with him, he's not standing in his way. And then he leaves him that clue to his own... identity.
Life.
So he's more of like sort of a guardian angel type character by the end of it.
See, this is the great thing about Blade Runner. There's so many like different opinions of to what it is.
Yeah, because it's... Do you know what it's great? It's because it's ambiguous, not in a bullshit way. Like, I'm actually not... I love ambiguity. That's the right pronunciation.
No.
Ambiguity in films. When it's done right. I really don't like when like the point of a film is ambiguity. Like, have you ever seen that film Spider with Jake Gyllenhaal?
No.
Okay, well, it's shit. Like, I personally hate it because it's like the whole thing is weird metaphors and there's no real plot. But I love the way in Blade Runner you can endlessly think about it. There's clearly overall there's an A to B to C to Z. What happens in the movie. Even Ridley Scott's come out and cleared up certain things that were possibly ambiguous. But then there's all these in-betweens of like, what did that mean? What did that... Was he something? Was he a replicant? Does he know that and that's why he did that? And so it's the gaps in between where you start trying to think about it for days and weeks after.
My thoughts on it are... And I've read loads of different theories. This one seems to be the most that is backed by a lot of the fans and by Ridley Scott himself. Obviously, he has the unicorn dream, and then he leaves the unicorn origami. Now, what a lot of people have seen that as, with the replicants, they implant memories or dreams into their head to, make them think, that they lived the real life. But obviously, a unicorn isn't real. So he must be a replicant. Like, if that's...
Well, not just that. Well, basically
because he knows that he dreamed.
I think it was more the fact that they have certain specific, either in dreams or memories, very specific ones that they have. So that it's nearly like having a code word or a safe word. Where they can say to them, if you have a recurring nightmare of Michael Jackson throwing a custard pie in your face that you have every night, but you never tell anyone. That's a pretty specific thing that someone can say to you to be like, we implanted this memory.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's a unicorn, it's not so much that, I can't, you can imagine something that's never happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's more, it's a unicorn because it's a metaphor for something that doesn't exist.
For him to know that it was a unicorn and to leave that exact paper origami thing.
And it's obviously
it must be.
And it's also like, why does he do it? That's why I think like he's actually a really positive character that's looking out for him, and a character that's sympathetic to him.
Yeah,
because there's no reason for him to be nice to him, not grass him up about the fact that he's running off with a replicant.
Yeah, exactly.
Who has a bounty on her head at that point.
Yeah.
And to leave him a clue to his identity. And you wonder, like, was he trying to give him clues the whole time?
I don't know. He just...
Like, he's making them little symbols the whole time. He's making the little
origami.
I don't know if he makes a unicorn one before then.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
From what I see, he only made like a Matchstick Man one and the unicorn one, the whole film. So
Matchstick Man would be just referring to Deckard himself, I guess. But
yeah,
but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, now's probably the best time to talk about the different endings of the different cuts. In this one, he just gets in a lift.
Yeah, he just gets in a lift and fucks off.
And he fucks off. The unicorn paper structure is the biggest.
Can I just say as well, before you say about... Because people say this ending, then the happy end. I do think this is more or less a happy ending.
He runs
off with his bird.
Yeah, I like this ending better.
Yeah, well, he runs off with it. Like, you can assume they get killed. You can assume they died. You can assume they not make it. You can assume they do make it. Like, you know... But
now we know that.
They go off together, so as long as you got that in my book is a happy ending.
But now we know that he definitely made it because of 2049,
Good point. And what happened to her in that one?
I think she... From what I can work out...
She wasn't about, anyway.
No, she
we'll review it at some point.
But yeah, we'll review it at some point. But then what I don't understand about it, if he's a replicant, and he's obviously an older version than Roy Batty, because he gets absolutely battered.
Yeah.
He's in this 2049, about 80 years old. So is he a replicant? Is he not? I think it's one of those questions.
Maybe his skin grows. I can't. They must address it.
Anyway, we'll review that film in a different one. In the different cuts, there's a different ending. Obviously, as you said, the happy ending.
The one where they're flying over the hills.
Yeah, so they get in the car.
They stole. Well, they didn't steal
the footage.
They bought the footage from The Shining.
Yeah.
When they were filming the helicopter footage of the car, the little beetle. Obviously, they didn't feature the beetle.
The green.
But basically, hills. From that helicopter footage of filming over the hills and stuff, as they drive to the Outlook Hotel in the opening sequence.
Yeah. They
bought that footage from Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah. Apparently, Ridley Scott rang him up and was like.
Was he angry about it?
No, it was like I don't have any budget left to like put together these last helicopter shots.
Oh wait, so Ridley Scott was. So they basically said change this and do this, and Ridley Scott was doing it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right.
The studio didn't like the unicorn ending because it was too open for audiences.
It's kind of not open though. It's kind of pretty.
So they were like,
clear.
We want you to do an ending, basically, where they're driving off into the sunset. So to tie it all up, that they got away and they're going off to somewhere. So he was like, I don't have any budget to film these helicopter shots now. So I don't know if he rang him. Someone rang Stanley Kubrick. It might not have been him directly. And was like, have you got any stock footage of that scene from The Shining? And he was like, yeah, I've got loads of it left. And he just sent it down and they just used it.
See, I obviously I don't like that ending compared with the proper one, but I didn't mind. I actually always quite liked how they filmed it. And then later I found out it was because it was stock footage. But I kind of liked how it was just a POV shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Something about it was kind of like fairy tale-esque that fitted in with the whole unicorn thing as well.
Yeah.
Even though it deleted the unicorn aspect of the movie, but I always quite liked how it was filmed and how it looked. But it's funny because when you think about what that shows and the narration, the narration just basically says like, we're gonna go off and I don't know how long she's gonna live, but who knows, and blah blah blah.
The narration, man.
But honestly, what's funny about that is it doesn't actually change anything. Other than the fact that you don't know he's a replicant, you don't get that clue that he's a replicant.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Like, the same thing happens, except you find out he's a replicant and they still go off together and you still don't know how long she's going to live, but they're just going to run off together.
But my question is, the studios must think all moviegoers are just retarded that can't work out, like, subtle clues.
A lot of them are, to be fair.
Well,
like,
they did walk out.
Like, Blade Runner wasn't a hit, it was a hit later.
Oh,
Blade Runner 2049... Even after, 40 years of Blade Runner being heralded as one of the best sci-fi, maybe the best sci-fi ever, 2049 wasn't a hit in the cinemas.
I really loved. We'll do a separate review of that. Actually.
Yeah, but I'm saying it wasn't a hit. Like, it wasn't a money maker.
I think people want to go to the cinema to escape and not necessarily have to think about stuff. And I'm not saying that's right, but I kind of get it at the same time.
Yeah, it's just annoying because you can... To explore interesting, clever ideas, sci-fi is such a ripe...
Yeah.
Obviously ripe genre to do that with. But it's a genre that naturally will usually incur a bigger budget.
Yeah, well, the possibilities...
And it just makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
That's why Black Mirror has been such an easy success, is because it's a TV show, you can have a decent sized budget, but it's built in and you don't have to worry so much about getting bums on seats because you can build an audience over time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, look at like the fun ideas they've had to play around with. And it also is better as an anthology series because if one doesn't work, it's not the end all be all.
Oh, yeah.
The next episode's around the corner.
There's obviously going to be some episodes that are better than others. Like, one of the episodes is fucking David Cameron fucking a pig, isn't it?
That's my favourite.
yeah.
I don't know
That's
about
a
you,
good
mate.
one,
That was
yeah.
my favourite. That was the first episode ever. Anyway, forget Black Mirror, Blade Runner. So you didn't like it?
Which? Blade Runner?
No, I'm messing. You love it.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, well, I'm gonna do it by cuts. The cuts with the voiceovers, the theatrical cuts are just shit. The voiceovers make such a big difference for me. You know, it doesn't have that unicorn ending. I would give Blade Runner, the director's cut, maybe even the final cut, a 9. I'm not going to give it a full out. I don't think there's one film that I've ever given a 10. I think there's always room for something.
There's a couple I'd give a 10 to. I'm not even going to bother talking about the other cuts. And I'm not going to give it a rating, but I'm just going to say Blade Runner is one of the best films ever made. One of the best sci-fi films ever made. I kind of nearly feel like watching it next week for a fourth time because this time was the first time where I really felt like sometimes some of my favourite movies ever, and I won't talk about them now, but I'll review them at some point, are films that I didn't even like the first time I saw them, and by the second or third time something just clicks, and it kind of clicked for me this time I was watching it, and it really is just a phenomenal movie. So layered, so many reasons to like it, such great performances, such great writing, such brilliant characters, and just things you'll notice time, like so many little details.
Yeah.
The more you already know about it, the more you can concentrate on all the other great little details in the background. So for me, just a near
perfect,
virtually a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.